Beep, 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 beep. Jester interlude. Right, I've got a new motto. When they hand it to you on a plate, the jester shouldn't hesitate. In all my time doing this, and all the lovely people that I've met, and all the extraordinary things that I've seen some total and utter batshittery. Okay? But this takes the biscuit. Okay. Which is why you've got like 3 today. Spoiling you I am. Let's go, right? This comes from, just for some context, from my American, Canadian, Singaporean and Swedish viewers, which seem to be popular there, I don't know why. There's a thing called The Guardian, which sort of posits itself as a newspaper, but actually it's just a pamphlet for the loons, right? It's read by Fruit Loops. Honest to God, I'm going to do myself a damage. Right, here we go. So, without messing about, I know it's lunchtime and you're busy. This is, it's from The Guardian. It's called, I don't feel like I was born into the wrong body. There's not a right or wrong way to be trans, by somebody called Madison Godfrey. Right? And then they've got a nice picture of Madison, who looks like a lovely person to me, from just, from a distance, as Bet would say. Madison Godfrey inhabits gender beyond a binary, but transition isn't what makes them trans. We've had it wrong all this time, right? And here comes Madison Godfrey to put you right. When I describe myself as trans, I often feel strangers' eyes scan up and down, assessing my appearance for evidence. Signifiers of how this silhouette was built, right? Now signifiers. This is the language of like textual analysis, right? So what you've got to understand is she is talking about herself as a piece of text, as a public piece of text. Now, my warrior teachers will know what I mean by textual analysis, because the first thing we do in one of the sessions is a textual analysis of a film, and everybody goes mad about it, right? Right? But a signifier, what she's saying is that she's giving off signifiers, right? She's pretending she isn't, but she is. She's giving off signifiers that she's not trans, so she can be trans. That's the first line. Let's keep going. When people ask invasive questions about my hormonal or surgical journey, growling beneath their words is another implicit inquiry. Are you the before or after picture of your gender transition? Young lady, right, okay, you don't change anything. It's not possible for you to be a different gender, right? You can play around with gender identity, which doesn't exist as a belief system, but you have a unique personality, all right? Dear, you seem somewhat confused. But my experience of being trans is not a future destination. I will one day arrive at or a version of myself I've already departed from. No, it's not a future destination. It's just lunacy, right? You just Fruit Loop. Fruit Loop! Right. Perhaps this comes down to linguistic confusion. Here we go. Do you think she might be a queer theorist? Do you think she's a follower of the LGBTQI plus hands, knees and bumps a daisy people? I may. This linguistic confusion. People often assume that trans is an abbreviation of transitioning. Right? It's what the letters told us. Dear. It's not, I'm calling you dear for a reason, right? Because that's how you should be treated, Like, they're coming to take you away. Yeah, the word trans in this context, as opposed to the context of, say, a public transport service, which they've linked to a public transport service. I don't know why. Yeah. Oh, I don't know. Or an eminent death cab for cutie album, is short for transgender, which the Oxford Dictionary defines as a person whose gender identity does not correspond with the sex registered for them at birth. On most birth certificates, there is an M or F on most. Box tick for newborn babies. So at the level of language, here we go, at the level of language, i.e., in my fantasy world, admittedly it comes under poetry. What? Right? So at the level of language, to be transgender means not aligning one's own identity with that rigid box on an official document, right? So you don't want to be male or female. Tough titties, right? You know why it's tough titties? They're a giveaway. I can't with these people. And there was no non-binary option on mine. So you were born and we couldn't tell whether you were non-binary because we didn't know whether you joined the cult. Right? That's why. Right? Because non-binary is nonsense. It doesn't exist. Okay? Not every non-binary person labels themselves under the transgender umbrella, but some do. So here we go. Let's cause more confusion at the level of language. So that they're only non-binary when they say they are, except when they say they're not, if they're part of the transgender umbrella, but they're only under the umbrella when it suits them, not all the time. So if they're not under the umbrella, don't assume they're trans. Right. My transness is not about feeling uncomfortable in my body. It's about feeling uncomfortable with the gender that was allocated to this body. Nobody allocated your body a gender, you nut job. Nobody's allocated. They think that they're fighting some battle against, like, really strict gender roles. What they're actually doing, of course, is actually heading towards the Maoist idea of no gender at all, of no differentiation between the sexes in terms of how they look. After the Cultural Revolution, everybody looked the same. Now that might have worked in China, because Chinese people are different to people from the West in terms of their biological makeup and how they grow and where they live. Not going to work here, dear. It's the big hands and the big feet give it away, and you with your hips and your tiny hands. Right. I'm going to say it again. My transness is not about feeling uncomfortable in my body. It is about feeling uncomfortable with the gender that was allocated to this body. Find the person that allocated your gender and deal with them. Whoa. It just gets better. Right, here we go. Although I was once assigned female at birth. No, you were born female. Up here, Fantasyland, yeah? Cuckoo. Absolutely crackers. It's a shame, Probably a nice person. Poet, whatever it is she's doing on the poetry section, I don't know. Poetry used to be Dolce et Decorum. Remember, what is it now? Now it's this. Links in the Dubris. Although I was once assigned female at birth, on days when I wear winged eyeliner and a crop top that makes my boobs look great, I am still non-binary. Oh, medically transitioning, sometimes involving hormonal therapy or surgical procedures, can constitute an integral part of a person's journey of gender affirmation. You've got to understand what they're thinking, right? Because if you're not a gamer, right, and I know lots of you, I wish some of you were, right? Like my mate Marjorie, you'll know Marjorie, Leaky Likey. Yeah, I'd love to see her playing a game of Skyrim. I'd pay money for that. So one of my warrior teachers said to me the other day, not a warrior teacher, one of my followers said to me, can you recommend a game that doesn't involve violence for boys? Yeah, why would I do that? Just kill the goblin. Right, so it's surreal, right? Medically transitioning, sometimes involving hormone therapy or surgical procedures, can constitute an integral part of a person's journey of gender affirmation. They think they are making a character on a computer game. Where you can make the tits bigger or the hips wider or, you have tattoos on your face, or you can be big and butch or nothing or, sexless. They think that life allows them to make a computer game creature like you do in a computer game. They are deranged, right? They're absolutely deranged. That's because they're playing at the level of language, which is the language of queer theorists. They're playing at the level of language. Yeah. She's just a nutty media student. That's my guessing. It says it can constitute an integral part of a person's journey of gender affirmation, but pursuing this process is not a prerequisite of being trans or non-binary. In other words, only if you say you are. This is absolute hyper-individualism. She's a hyper-individualist, right? Only if they say they are. There's nothing they need to do. They just have to say it, and then we have to give them rights and kneel down before them and let them into spaces they don't belong in and let them be part of worlds they're not and let them appropriate, the title of, for example, gay or lesbian when they're neither, right? So just so they can be included in the in-group, in the club, Weirdo. The reason we have discrimination, my lovely, is because of people like you, right? So we can discriminate between sitting down to dinner with friends or a nutter who thinks that they're a character generated by Skyrim. It's surreal. It's absolutely surreal. Should I go on? Why not? Let's go on. Pursuing this process, not a prerequisite and does not determine the validity of anyone's gender identity. No, gender identity just exists, doesn't it? Like some ephemeral thing, yeah, that's been poured into you. If imagining it as a checklist overlooks that barriers often encountered by trans people who want to medically transition, such as inaccessibility, costliness, wait times, and stigma perpetrated by some practitioners. No, lovely, what it represents, right, is that you think there's a checklist. Right, but you've just given us a checklist of barriers to complain about a checklist. She's not well, right? And as she gets older, and she writes well, so I imagine an intelligent person, you are going to have a breakdown. And at that point, you're going to need all the help you can get because this stuff deranges you. It makes you ill, right? It makes you ill. To suggest that being trans requires a specific type of transition is to enforce a hierarchy that is ultimately elitist. So it's the elite's fault. Right, okay, we can go with that, I expect. And then they've got a picture of her sort of holding her head and sniffing her jumper. The assumption that every trans person wants to transition also reproduces stale discourse that all trans folk feel born in the wrong body, a stereotype that shouldn't be uniformly applied. So it shouldn't be uniformly applied, but it can apply. So you can be born in the wrong body. So she's a proselytizing believer in a flesh sack that's filled with a gender soul by a god who sometimes gets it wrong. That's all I've got to say about that. As poet Sam Rush writes, I wasn't born in the wrong body, I was born into the right lesson. For some people, transitioning is literally life-saving. No, it's not. It's not! Repeating the lies again, see? But squeezing all trans narratives into a narrow trope, that's the language of media analysis, she thinks she's a Skyrim character, right? Minimises us into a caricature of ourselves. Yes! And it is ultimately boring. Yes! Yes, it is. Trans and non-binary folk inhabit more than one character description. She's literally describing a computer game. Besides, just because someone pursues transition doesn't mean they hate their body. No, it just means that you're a gender-addled grievance gerbil who wants to cause other people trouble and occupy spaces that aren't yours because you're a middle-class, entitled, rich girl. That's my guess. Could be wrong. Gender euphoria is not only experienced by trans folk, it can be a community act. Gender euphoria. Right, that's what they're after. Attention. Give me attention. Give me euphoria from attention. Gender euphoria is not only experienced by trans folk, it can be a community. It can be wearing a new jumpsuit. It can be changing from the soprano to alto parts when you sing your favourite song on the freeway. Absolutely insane. Absolutely insane. My early journey towards non-binary joy involved eyeliner. Involved eyeliner pencils, boxer briefs, and crossing the road while holding hands with someone I loved. It is literally batshit crazy, right? Give me that eyeliner. Give me an eyeliner pencil. Give me an eyeliner. I'm going to be non-binary. Get me an eyeliner pencil. I've already got the boxer briefs on. I put on some clothes and I felt non-binary joy. This is as mad as that Fruit Loop. The other one, what's his name? Jeffrey Marsh creature, right? Many of these steps felt like dance moves. New juicy ways I learned to move my body and twist my hips, to grind air and frolic in front of my own mirrors. She's fucking porn-addled. Rather than changing my body, I was changing the ways I inhabited my body. She thinks it's a malleable computer graphic. There is not a right or wrong way to be trans. Doesn't exist, does it? We now know this. It's so ridiculous. That's what this proves. This proves that trans is a category that is solid, or trans is a category that is actually able to be used in any meaningful way, doesn't exist, and she's made the case for it. Trans, therefore, according to this young lady, doesn't exist. Every trans person I know has a unique relationship with how their body moves through the world. Yeah, because people get up in the morning and go, today I shall be considering, while I'm working 55 hours a week to feed my family, how my body moves through the world. Nonsense, right? As Nevo Zissin writes, pronoun use is not political correctness, it is suicide prevention. Now she's using the suicide trope. Why are The Guardian printing this? Because it's The Guardian, and they're Fruit Loops, right? That's why. Right. Every trans person is unique, has a relationship with how their body moves through the world, as does every cisgender person I know. Cisgender doesn't exist. Cis is not a word, okay? We aren't subsets of our own sex. You're just a weirdo. Sorry, love. Considering the etymology of the word trans as beyond, trans is now meaning of beyond. To be transgender can be understood as existing beyond gender. I am beyond... Look at me, I'm a special flower. You narcissistic, self-entitled, hyper-individual, deranged nutjob. That's what some people would say. I couldn't possibly comment. Fitting into neither of the pink and blue boxes offered on my birth certificate. It's not offered, dear. It's just a fact, right? My gender exists beyond, a box that is yet to be ticked, a colour that has no name. I love this trans body, freckled face, underarm hair, tattooed calves, and the same hourglass figure as my mother. She's insane. Right, this is hyper-individualism and anal gaze. She's gazing up her own back passage to such an extent that it's led her to be deranged. Sad, isn't it? It's terribly sad. She's not well. Although I was assigned female at birth, celebrating my body and my femininity doesn't make me any less non-binary. Instead, it makes me happy. Well, as long as you're happy, dear, you know. Happy, like, you know, in the corner, knitting while rocking in a chair. That kind of happy. Dress Rehearsals, a memoir and poetry by Madison Godfrey, is out now. Yep, that's going to be a bestseller, isn't it? I had to do that. I couldn't help myself, because when I read it, it was sent to me by my lovely warrior teachers. I couldn't believe what I was reading. So this is about books, right? So I'm assuming it's not fiction. Because, you know, well, either way, it's crap. Because it is fiction, really, isn't it? But this is from some nutter in the arts. Defund them. Defund a lot of them. Shut it all down. There you go. Now you know. To be trans is not to be trans. To be non-binary is not to be non-binary. It's how your body moves through the world. It's how you read your body as a text. And it's whether or not you assign more strength than you do charisma, like you would if you were making up a character in Skyrim. Okay? I don't know about you, but I'm off to kill some goblins. I'll see you later.